SRAM GX T-Type. This is the cheapest transmission you can get in the market today. Some call it more refined than the more expensive drivetrains like that XX behind me. Well, I have with me today their Cassette and the Derailleur. Why don't we take a closer look and see what these are about? And we do have cheaper components than this GX in the marketplace. I did review that S1000, the SX level transmission components, but remember that is only available OEM, so that means on brand new bikes. This is what you can get retail, and I only have the Derailleur and the Cassette. However, these come with that new pod that you could see on the SX. The only difference between the GX pod and the more expensive ones is pretty much the buttons. And in the meantime, SRAM launched this. You have the rocker paddle version of that transmission pod. Probably have to do a quick review of this one in the meantime. Now, I don't have a crankset with me, but it is just a forged crankset that is not as refined as the XO, so expect it to be heavier. Also, the bash guards that are here made out of aluminum, now you have them made out of composite. If anything, they might look nicer for longer. The T-Type chain is the cheapest you can get for the transmission. It is used with that SX as well. And the big difference between the GX and the more expensive ones is usually the coatings. Otherwise, the dimensions are the same. I did a video in which I show you that even the road flat top chain is compatible with the mountain bike components. So if you want to go for the cheapest, remember road and mountain bike T-type or flat top chains have pretty much the same dimensions. And that brings me to the Cassette. This is the AXS 1275, 520%, that is 10 to 52 tooth. That is exactly the same with the more expensive. This is the XX that we've used all this year. And just like that XX, the largest cog here is made out of aluminum. So you have 11 steel cogs, and the 12th one is made out of aluminum alloy. It is painted like the good old GX, that is the lunar gray. The more expensive cassettes look a bit fancier, I must say. This is very shiny as opposed to all the other cassettes, and that is because of the process in which they apply that nickel coating on the cogs. That is done so you get a long-lasting cassette. This is coated as well, but you can see the difference between the two. I don't know about you, but I definitely prefer the look of this. It looks more premium as opposed to the GX. From a longevity standpoint, there shouldn't be any difference. You still have that 6 setup cog with that red ring behind it. You do use an XD driver just like before. However, on the XX cassette, XO, XXSL, they will be all the same. You do have rivets here, 1 and 2, so the last 2 cogs are riveted onto the big aluminum cog, and then the rest of the cassette, it is machined out of the one piece of metal. That is the X-Dome design that they've been using since 11 speed. If you move over here, the rivets here connecting those last 2 cogs to the aluminum, but then here on the inside, you will notice that they do use more rivets all throughout the cassette. Of course, SRAM has a name for this. They call it the pin dome as opposed to the X-Dome of the older cassette. That is used in conjunction with what they call the mini cluster design, which is these smallest cogs, the last 4, that are machined out of one piece of metal. Now, adding all these pins to the cassette obviously adds a little bit to the overall weight. XO and XX cassettes come up to 381 grams. The SL uses 2 more aluminum cogs, so that one is like 30 grams lighter. Our Pin Dom GX comes up to 447 grams. So we're talking 67 grams difference between the two. This is quite a bit cheaper though. You can see the $250 of the GX 1275 T-Type cassette as opposed to the $400 of the XO or 1295 T-Type cassette. All these cassettes are e-bike compatible and they can only be replaced as a one piece. That is different from the SX or S1000 cassette that does have a few replaceable cogs, the smaller ones. If you ask me, that is specifically designed with e-bikes in mind. So a slightly heavier cassette, cheaper type of coating, but otherwise full compatibility with the other T-Type transmission components. Would you go for the GX from the get-go? Would you go for the GX cassette when your more expensive one wears out? Let me know in the comments below. If you're worried about the rivets used to build this cassette, remember SRAM introduced them with their 1042 tooth cassettes back in the 11 speed days. So I don't expect these to give us any trouble down the road. And that pretty much brings me to the derailleur, and some would argue that this brings the more refined design to the T-Type components. And that probably comes from the position of the AXS battery. All the previously launched group sets, XX, XO, XXSL, have the battery here at the back. Some might say that this is exposed. We haven't had any issues with it whatsoever. On the GX, the battery is nicely tucked inside, pretty much covered by the bracket of this full mount derailleur. They also talked about reconfigured gearbox. Obviously, they had to do that just to make room for the battery in this position. And here's the two designs side by side. I think I like the tucked-in battery a little bit better, but I don't think it matters that much. Otherwise, you still have replaceable skid plates here and here. This is an XX, by the way. You still have this outer link replaceable as well. You do use the same clutch used on all the more expensive derailleurs. SX is the only one that has the cheaper clutch, remember that. Also, the actual cage and the clutch is compatible with all the other group sets as well. This seems to be something that fails quite a bit for a lot of people. So when your more expensive derailleur cage fails, you can get this one. The only disadvantage, if you want to call it that, is the fact that here you have this inner part of the cage made out of steel. This is made out of either aluminum or carbon, depending on the derailleur that you're getting. Otherwise, the design of the cage is identical without those cutouts. The jockey wheels are the same and they use bearings. And yes, just like the XO, you do not have the magic wheel here, but if you ask me, that is a complete, absolute gimmick. That doesn't work on mine. This one doesn't have it. You're not missing anything. Weight of the XX is 441 grams. You add the battery, that's 465. As opposed to that, we have 488, so 23 grams heavier for the GX. However, price-wise, the delta here is ridiculous. This is $400. The XX is $650 for 23 grams and a feature that doesn't work. And if you're wondering about the sound of the motor here, here's the GX. And here's the XX. They do sound different, maybe because of the redesigned gearbox, tiny motors. I don't think that matters whatsoever. So slightly different design, maybe better, more weight, cheaper, and a transmission pod that might be longer lasting than what they had in the past. What do you guys think about these GX components from SRAM? Would you go for T-Type GX as a retail version, entry-level point into the transmission idea? Let me know in the comments below. Let me know if you guys have any questions for me. Remember to sign up, like, comment. It really helps a small channel like mine. And until next time, hope to see you folks on the trails. Cheers, guys. Cheers.